it's a pretty amazing thing that almost, was it 28 years ago, little innocent Chris, was popping into a GW, little Games Workshop, and entering his first painting contest with his massively dry brushed metal Assyrian miniature.
Asserman.
Look, I'm the guy that says everything wrong.
Yeah, I know.
I know that. And it's just kind of one of those fun come to circle moments or whatever, where I'm like almost 30 years later painting the new plastic Azerman miniature. So
I'm just so gonna let you bury yourself.
Miniature, and I thought it'd be kind of a fun video to talk about how nostalgia plays such a huge role in what Games Workshop is capable of, like being such a force in the industry, like how it does stuff like this to people, right? Where, like, I don't actually have an Aeldari anymore. I used to have one Aeldari like maybe 15 years ago, but I don't currently have one. But I still picked this up and bought it because I just felt compelled to do that. And I'm not the only one.
No,
not the only one.
A lot of people. Very good release.
Very strong.
Very strong.
And it reminds me of, in a way, like, obviously we are part of the minority of people that have been in the hobby for close to 30 years, obviously. Like, people that have stuck with it this long, right? That's not normal. It's not like 50% of people that start the hobby are going to do it for 3 decades.
No.
It's a much, much smaller number. But it reminds me of something like phenomenons you see in, like, other companies that have been around a long time. Like, you get, like, Pokemon Company, Magic the Gathering, Nintendo, where you have this amazing thing, this strong intellectual property that people love, and they kind of, if they are able to stick with it long enough, they kind of stay in that ecosystem their whole life. And then that that ability to, like, draw on those old experiences as, like, consumer products later on is, like, extremely powerful. Like, obviously, like, the Aeldari release specifically, like, is one of those ones that taps into that, because, like, so much of their range was still like tied back to the 90s. And so, like, that nostalgia part of it is only going to affect people that have literally been around since then, right?
Yeah.
Or, close to that period. But, like, now they get to sell to people that are new to the hobby who want to collect Aeldar, and then they get to, like, re-dip into these people that have already purchased the same model previous in their lives, maybe once or twice, collected maybe a few Eldar armies in their time, and are now buying in again. Like, it's kind of a crazy thing. You see with Pokemon where, like, people keep buying Bulbasaurs, even though they're 40 years old or whatever. They're like, they can't break it. I keep buying new Zeldas and Marios, and it's
I'm sure you're so excited to get another Mario Kart or Mario Kart 9.
I'm actually stoked for the next Mario Kart. It's been like 11 years or something.
Wasn't that game perfect, though?
It was a perfect game, yeah. They have to make it unperfect so they can make it perfect again. Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll buy it again. No, for sure. And Games Workshop has, I would say, historically they've been doing like model redos, upgrades and updates to sculpts. So that's like a small example of nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I would say in the last, like, I keep saying this is the inflection point in my mind was that 2017 year, when they had all that change of management and change of direction and how they're going to go things. They really started hammering the nostalgia more. So that's like redoing all the Necromunda models and gangs. Now they're, going through the Space Marine chapters and redoing. You've got, like, new Dante and new
old favorites, right?
Fiston, new Azrael, new Belial, and, like, all these characters, like, getting their new Primarsified models, the new Aspect Warriors.
And it's not like their resculpts most of the time too are very, like, they pay, like, a tribute to like Jess Goodwin and some of these original sculptors that made them. Like, they're very intentional.
Yeah. Yes. For sure. And you see now, and I think Age of Sigmar is actually one one of the most biggest examples of the nostalgia thing, or them tapping into it as a gimmick to like draw more people there. So right in that second to third edition time, they started hitting us with the way the Soulbright Gravelords are like so vampire heavy with the way the skeletons, and now the next release for that, the Death Rattle, is like you got vampire lords and dragons and stuff, and you're like, this is very nostalgic. Obviously everything old world related. The entire old world thing is just like a Nintendo classic, basically. Here you go. You play all your Nintendo games again.
Yeah, it's like the port or whatever. Yeah,
but you can play them on your nice new TV. You don't have to play it on your old tube TV or whatever. Things like that. And then even their Titanicus release, and to an extent Imperialis. They did a bit of Aeronautica. Like they've been continuously tapping in
to the past.
And you could argue it all does better than some of their newer properties.
When I compare like just hand to hand, I'm like, man, those like Soulblight Gravelord and Seraphon releases,
right? Yeah,
were like
Seraphon,
some of the best releases we've had in the store.
Yeah,
and then you like compare them to like Cities of Sigmar Army, which didn't necessarily have the same resonance with like the old world. Mm-hmm. Like Seraphon's like a direct, these are lizards. They just updated the sculpts, and now they're in. And same with the skeletons, new direwolves, new blood knights.
Yeah,
whoa. Yeah. Tended to do way better, I think, on average than like things that were brand new.
Even Bone Reapers. Bone Reapers are supposed to be Neo Tomb Kings, and they don't have the same.
Yeah.
People are not as jazzed about that as like you said, as they would be over the Seraphon is a big Slaves to Darkness too.
Huge, very popular because of that. Yeah.
All of these armies, like there was another one I just had in my obviously Sisters of Battle did super well. And they're just redone versions of the classic army. Wherever Games Workshop's kept you see, I mean in 40K, I'm trying to think what was obviously Votan was like. I would put them more in the new category.
Yeah, definitely in the new category. Like even gene cults, you could say they're nostalgia, but like they're from even with so far back that like it was a time when the company was very small. You know what I mean? Like I don't think a lot of people collected those.
Maybe the AdMech too. There's like 2 or 3 factions that are like, in my opinion, like new. Mm-hmm. But the vast majority of 40K is just like stuck, is in a nice nostalgia bubble cycle. People they don't really change them too hard because they're beloved like that. They really Games Workshop is very good at knowing what not to touch. Sometimes they're like this does super well. We're not going to just screw around with this. It was one of the reasons I like AOS more in general. Is it's a playground where they do new stuff more often, which I like. But, But I can't argue with the sales when they do like things that are like tied to the old. It just does better.
Yeah,
like 100%. So. Like maybe Sylvaneth would be even more popular if they had more like elves in it or something, or like
probably
more wealthy. And no, there's examples where the opposite is true. I think Kharadrons have been a fairly popular army because of they're so wacky and interesting.
Yeah, true.
But
they've had a pretty
good,
pretty good
when the company's 40 plus years old, they get to like really tap into that over and over, and it's super powerful.
No,
we
see it.
Oh, the big one. Oh, here's the big we haven't talked about. It was the that Black Templar release.
Oh yeah, damn.
When they put the third ed rulebook art on the box cover.
So intelligent.
And it worked.
It worked really well.
People were like, yes.
Whoa, yeah.
Yes, I need this.
Black Templars always had this weird like cult following too. Like even because they're one of the rare chapters that got like a full plastic upgrade box, like at a time when they weren't really doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So people always really loved them because they could put like chains and all sorts of cool stuff on the robes. Neat stuff on the models.
Their introduction to the game. Well, yeah, it was pretty in that era. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
3rd edition. I think they were in the poster. Child of.
They were a pretty big deal at the time. Yeah. So, no, I mean. It's something that will keep it's going to keep the rich, but in this case, like.
Well, think about it this way. Let's expand it out. We go in 2 different directions here. One direction is like how is Games Workshop going to like keep doing this, and like how they're going to expand, and then number 2, how this really makes it tough for people to enter the market.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they're going to keep it going because because their products get to stick around for so long, and they get to write all these books and narratives and now TV shows and stuff. Like they came up with Titus or whatever, or them and the game studio or whatever.
Yeah.
Like Titus wasn't a thing, whatever.
No.
20 years ago or something. But now Titus has a few video games, and he'll probably have another one.
You got to make another one.
And there's a miniature of him.
Yeah.
So they literally birthed their own thing that's going to 10, 15 years from now become its own force that'll and they can divert some resources to making up new stuff like that'll become relevant things. Because they have a wealth of things they can also lean on. So at some point they'll be making revisions and new Titus models, and maybe Titus will have a sidekick in the future, and they can grow that. It's probably also helps that they have a dedicated large, part of their workforce designed or built around coming up with this stuff.
Yeah,
and putting a lot of energy, and they get authors and they write stories, and
that's the big thing.
They
right?
write it even the characters in Vermintide or whatever, those Kruber and Carillion and all this. They could make minis of those.
They could,
and
they
it's
could.
the IP. It's the IP just keeps its frozen.
When more time comes out, they're gonna have definitely characters,
right? So that's what they do. They just
and they
append it.
They keep
little by little.
Literally their business model lends itself now to get constant moments where they get to keep going back to this essentially. So the fact that they constantly revise and update their range for their miniature stuff gives them more opportunities time and time again to every 5-10 years to go back and remaster some things or put out new miniatures. And then all of a sudden every day there's new people entering and having new moments with these that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they're still in the hobby. Games Workshop gets to make connections with them based on that purchase they made decade ago or whatever, right?
Again,
it's super powerful.
The entire old world marketing is built around
100%.
that.
It's all nostalgia, for sure.
It's all
and even nostalgia for a thing that people didn't even experience too.
Yes,
which is crazy interesting.
Well, so again, for Chris and I, when we see the reboxed High Elf Archer, we're like, this is so old and jank.
Yeah, it's
but we have to put that aside because there's people who'd be like, yes, I didn't get to do this, and it looks and they're all into it. They love it because it looks classic. And you have to be like, yeah, that's fair.
Imagine that Games Workshop had a product line for 10 years that went away.
Yes,
right, and nostalgia still built up for something that people missed out, that people didn't even engage with in. They built a nostalgia based on something that wasn't there that they could bring. That's crazy, right? It's super powerful. Yeah.
So the companies that don't have that.
Oh man, well it's funny. I'll bring up War Machine here for a second because this is one of the things I was kind of laughing about last year when we were doing a few War Machine videos. As I was speculating, I was like, man, it's been 20 years. They've been around for a while.
Yeah.
And there are people that are nostalgic for first edition, second edition, the good times, right? They have a lot of that institutional memory or whatever from people enjoying the game. They just also have a lot of the other kind as well, right?
Yeah, I think you can. There's no rule that says you can't. The main thing that you need to have to be able to go back to do nostalgia thing is longevity. So
yes, it's kind of the key component.
Key component. So War Machine can sort of do it, but I guess what this comes back to is how many games with enough rich narrative have that are around long enough to do that,
Yeah.
So there's certain video game franchises like the Mario Karts or the Dark Souls franchise that can, because it's been there for so long, it can do that.
Right.
But I don't, most miniature games, I guess, just don't survive 5-10 years. You need at least probably 10 years to do that, like where you can have this like cycling of eras. And
I think there also needs to be change. I think too.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, yes. Of course.
I don't.
What, you're not gonna be nostalgic for something that hasn't changed.
Well, that's the thing. Or like so like, you know, I think about the reason I bring that up is I think about like historical games.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get the feeling that like as many people feel that way with historical games.
No. There is yeah. Well, the problem is that sandbox is also like has defined borders.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, this is what happened, and we're recreating this or something, which I can understand why maybe people, the appeal for things like the Napoleonics or Ancients or something, where there's enough mystery there that we don't know everything. We can,
right.
You know,
right. Yeah.
But you think of like the last 100 years, everything's very documented. You could like,
yes,
you know.
Yes. Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
But I think you're right that it. I personally would, again. So like, let's talk about Flames of War or something like that, because that's something that we've had here for a long time, and prior to that, we were into. You know, I would have it. I would be very hard pressed to like. I don't feel a ton of nostalgia for that. There's just because like I don't know what it is. It didn't really. Yeah, the models got better over the decades, but like.
But they kind of look the same though.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the point,
right? You
right?
can't make you know a metal resin Panzer IV versus a plastic one is like fundamentally not that different. Like the plastic one's nicer to build.
Whereas like you could look at like something like you know, I go back to Azerman and you know, you compare the 90s Azerman and the new one, and like it's night and day, right?
Yeah.
So there's you feel in a weird way nostalgic for the old one in a way that like it meant something to you. It's fundamentally different from the new one.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like that difference, that separation creates that feeling in a weird way, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all, I don't, this is a long video about nothing, but like,
third video.
What else do we do here on this channel anyways? I know. But I was feeling this way a little bit the last couple of weeks, and I was like, yeah, it would be good to just like kind of talk about, especially I don't know what it is about the Aeldari. Like the Aeldari specifically, they're one of these like classic 40k ranges. They've been around for friggin' forever. And like I said before, up until now, like there were still these like warp spiders, 1991.
Yeah.
Like up until very recently, you could get the warp spider at 1991 on the base tab.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, man, this is crazy, right? Like,
they're pretty old.
man, how much money they make off those warp spiders over?
Sure.
It's like, oh baby.
Yeah.
24 years of selling those.
Sure. Got their money.
34 years?
I don't know.
Jesus.
Yeah, pretty old.
Math is hard sometimes. Yeah. It's a long time. Yeah, it's a long time. What do you guys think? What makes you feel nostalgic in the hobby? Do you think it's an unfair advantage that old companies have? I think certainly it's hard to argue. You know, you even think of bigger companies like Disney and stuff, Marvel. Like they get to keep selling the same thing over and over again, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to come up with new ideas, right?
Just make another Spider-Man, kill Uncle Ben again.
He needs to die. It's part of the
You know, I've said this before. I'm really upset that they've stopped killing him.
They stopped killing him? Yeah, well, it got a little old. They had to kill Aunt May instead or whatever. Yeah, mix it up, you know? Except people cared a lot more this time because it was Miss Marissa Tomei.
Yeah. No! Yeah.
They finally made Aunt May hot and she had to die or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Good old garbage time.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment below if you have any fun examples or stories about little things like I shared with Azerman. I'm sure you all have some stories that are similar to that. And if you like this kind of videos, like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Check out our Patreon where we get ideas like this for our videos to make. There's like a little tip jar too if you feel so inclined. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.
Bye.